We all struggle with motivation, inspiration, or just a lack of ideas sometimes. It's very human, and so today I have invited a bunch of my friends to share their life-changing synth tips here with us. And my first guest is a fellow Swede that you probably haven't seen before. He is not a synth YouTuber, instead he's a talented composer and artist. He got some new music coming soon, and he is here to share some life-changing synth advice with us.
Yeah. So, hi everyone, and very welcome to my studio. I am Carl Utbult, and just like Bo, I live in Sweden. So, I want to bring, it might not be like a typical synth tip, it's more of some very basic music theory. And my only wish is for you to feel inspired, and hopefully this can take your synth jams and compositions further. We are going to have a look at the A natural minor scale. Very simple. Once you get a hold of it, or if you feel that's something for you, you can check out like the modes, the different modes, the Dorian mode, for example. Take it further, and hopefully this can help you. All right, so let me show you what I mean. We are going to use an initial patch on the Moog Muse, and we are going to stay very faithful to the A natural minor scale. And that means A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And as long as we use those notes, we are very safe. And chord-wise, we just going to go with the bass note, move up, octave plus 3, so the third. That's all we're gonna do. And here we go. Maybe some delay will always make it better. Yeah. Switch to the B timbre. That brings in a whole new muse. Maybe we will bring some mod wheel on the cutoff. And some delay. 3, 4. All right, so I mean that's it. Hope you learned or got inspired. Don't be afraid of learning the basics, synth-wise, theory-wise. It will help you, or it will inspire you. Just try it. Bo, super honored to be on your channel, and best of luck to you all. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Carl, for sharing that with us. And my next guest probably doesn't need much of an introduction. Here is the super talented Sarah Bell Reide.
Hey there, I'm Sarah Bell Reide. When Bo asked me to share one of my life-changing synth tips, the first thing that came to mind was to play and touch your synthesizers. So by touching and playing your synth, what I'm talking about is really pushing it beyond what the patch will do on its own. Interrupting your sequencers, changing values on the fly, playing attenuators to dynamically increase how much modulation is going to a specific destination. So why is this something that I personally have found so life-changing? First of all, it's really fun. Early on when I was getting started with modular synths, I used to get really stuck in the technical details of my patches. And this is something that I've noticed a lot of my beginner students experience as well, spending a lot of time trying to get the perfect sequence or meticulously tweaking an envelope for hours. But what I experienced for myself anyways, is that sometimes that can pull the life completely out of your patch. And it can even make you afraid to touch anything for fear of messing it up. Second, it can help you get so much more out of a small setup. Yes, we have access to a lot of modulation and control voltage within a synth, and that's really important. But we also have these. And at the risk of sounding like a total nerd, I like to think of these as 10 manual modulators. This is all about striking a balance between precise and finely tuned patching and also giving myself opportunities to inject some of that in-the-moment playfulness. Sometimes the most interesting musical moments come from just letting go, listening deeply, and seeing where your synth leads you.
Sarah's piece of advice resonated with me. For the 10 years that I've been doing synth videos and talking about synthesizers and making tutorials and reviews and whatnot, I've often felt that we overemphasize the technical side of things and that it's so easy to forget the human side of things. So in psychology, there's something called bottom-up versus top-down processing. And anything that is sort of technical in nature tends to be very top-down focused, basically meaning that you start with a preconceived idea of where you're going. I'm gonna make a kick drum sound. I'm gonna make a soft, warm pad sound. I'm gonna make an FM bell. And then you figure out kind of how to do this. But then there's the bottom-up processing, which is basically where the stimuli, in this case, the sounds that the synth is making, leads us somewhere. We don't have a preconceived idea of where we are going. It's an adventure. So what I want you to do is just play a note and start tweaking something. And of course, because we are human, our hands will go to, the cutoff, the resonance, and that's okay. That's just habit. But try and let the sound speak to you, be present in the moment, and try and avoid just following a standard path. Oh, I'm gonna tweak the filter, I'm gonna add this, da-da-da-da-da. And of course, with this approach, it's very common that you end up with these more effects-like sounds. But I'm pretty sure we can take this sound and make it more musically interesting. I mean, we're getting there. Fancy, but I'm letting the sound guide me rather than having an idea of where I want to go. And with just a few tweaks, and let me be real, it can be a struggle because when I'm tweaking knobs, it's hard to be in the moment. Instead, my brain is like, I need to tweak the filter, I need to do this, because why? Why? I should let the sound, the stimuli of the sound, lead me on an adventure. And that's just what I wanted to get across. Now, before I introduce the next guest, I just want to talk about a truly life-changing synth. Well, maybe not a tip, but something you might not know. So on many of the Moog synthesizers, there is something that many of you have not noticed. On each of the knobs here, there is actually a little bit of plastic that you can remove. feel is actually a little bit different when you remove the plastic. And I'm not telling you to do this, by the way, but I just found it so interesting. The more you know. Now my next guest should be familiar to you, otherwise I don't think you're a true synth nerd. Here is GEO Synths.
Thanks a lot, Bo. Well, today I'm just going to talk about sound design and some tips that you can use in your own sounds. Now, you might think that the oscillators or the filter are the most important aspects of sound design, and they certainly are important. However, for me, the most important aspects are the envelopes, in particular, the filter envelope. So I'm going to start off with an initialized sound. It's going to come up with one oscillator with a sawtooth. I'm going to drop that down 1 octave. Going to bring up oscillator 2. The way that I think about envelopes isn't necessarily 4 different things. It's actually attack and decay are one. They're the same, they're just mirror images of each other. So for instance, if we were to use the filter envelope, it deals with level and time. Now, if we also bring up the attack even further, it'll take longer. And then the mirror image of that is the decay stage. So that's where we set that. And while holding down the keys, you can then dial in your level with the sustain. And then it's a case of reducing maybe the envelope amount or changing the cutoff just slightly, and you just dial them in between each other. Which is nice, but say for instance you wanted it to just have a gentle bloom like it has there, it's still quite dark, but then in the sustain part you want it to get brighter. Well, as it stands, we can't actually do that with the envelope shape we've got. We could utilise an LFO, so normally what would happen if we were utilising a positive envelope, say we bring the cutoff down, bring up the envelope amount a touch, we've got a bit of a harder sound, but if we want to soften up the attack with the filter, just bring up the attack. However, if we put it into an inverted mode by reducing it, say by 50%, and then bringing up the cutoff, what we're doing now is turning the envelope shape up on its head. So what we did before, when we brought up the attack, it was actually going softer and softer. However, we've got the attack on 0 now, and the more we bring it up and we get around sort of 11 o'clock-ish, depending on the synth, we'll start getting a hard attack, which is a little bit strange. What we did before with the positive amount and using the LFO, we got a little bloom, and then when the LFO kicked in, it went brighter. Now with this, with using inverted, we can actually do a similar kind of thing, just using the envelope. Now, we could use that in a positive sense. So still keeping the amp envelope pretty much the same, we can then put it into an inverted envelope, a negative amount. So we get that harder attack, but we've still got the long release. So what we're concentrating now is not the sustain, but actually the release stage of the filter envelope, because I'm going to reduce it and it's going to start to get brighter, even to the point where it sounds like there's 2 sounds. Then with a synth like this, you can modulate those. So we're going to modulate the attack and also the release stage.
Thank you so much, Jamie, for that piece of advice. And my next guest is here to talk about an interesting way of combining two sequencers. And this was something I actually had never thought about doing, but it could prove quite life-changing.
Hello, my name is Killen, and I'm here today with the Analog 4 as well as the Oxy 1. I'd say that the takeaway of this segment is to use the strengths of either of these instruments. So the Oxy 1 is really good at coming up with melodies and just sort of throwing them out at you, whereas the Analog 4 or any electron sequencer is amazing at, param locks and per step parameters and stuff like that. So we're combining the strengths of these two sequencers. So here's the groove. That's just the drums that are happening in the Analog 4. This is the melody that's coming from the Oxy 1, and as you can see, there's a bunch of stuff happening here. So for example, if I just change some of these triggers around, it gives me a completely different melody. And that's on top of all the other parameters I've thrown in here as well. So there's notes, there's also velocity, per step velocity. In fact, I don't really like this velocity, so I'm going to randomize that again. And now I have something different. Right, so the matricial sequencer on the Oxy 1 works in this way. This is something that the Analog 4 isn't really good at. So whatever melody that we come up with here, let's unmute our drums. I'm going to record this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we have our melody. So it's been recorded into the Analog 4. Play the pattern. It's been recorded in there, and so now we could personalize this melody, really dig into the per step parameters. So let's say, I don't know, amp, I'm going to pull the release off of these two notes and make the release much longer on these two. So that alone will change something. I could pull the envelope down maybe on these three notes. Right, so you get the point. We could, of course, sculpt this in any way that we want now. And so for those reasons, I find that this is an all-star combo to work with. Hopefully this helps.
Thank you so much, Liam, for that piece of advice. And my next guest, much like my first guest, is also from Sweden. And he is an up-and-coming YouTuber here in the synth space. Here is The Perfect Workflow.
Hi, Bo, and thank you so much for having me. So I am Andreas from The Perfect Workflow. And today I'm going to show you an underrated gear combo that is truly amazing. So here we have the Synthstrom Deluge paired up with the iPad Pro running Loopy Pro. And to be clear, this can be any groovebox with syncing capabilities. It does not need to be the Deluge. This just happens to be my go-to machine for jamming. Loopy Pro is an excellent looping app that nowadays is more like a full DAW. So why have I paired these two up? It's simply to take my little jam on the Deluge to the next level. So with this I want to improve, add effects, mix, arrange and eventually make a finished mastered song of. And Loopy Pro can help me with all of this. So this is how to start the looping process. I solo the track that I want to loop, and then I need to change the bar length to match the track I want to record. Now I can start playback on the Deluge and press one of the circles to start looping. And because they are connected via MIDI, start and stop is synced with the Deluge as the host. So it's done, and I can mute the track on the Deluge, and now it's only the loop track in Loopy Pro that is playing. And then I can repeat this process for every track in my song. That's how easy it is to loop in Loopy Pro. So this serves multiple purposes. Firstly, it's offloading precious resources of the Deluge. It also transfers my stems. And it gives me the opportunity to add effects and all kinds of audio processing to every track. And while doing all this, I'm still here on the Deluge and can add more stuff to the song. So this becomes a part of the whole creative process. And all these things combined has the added benefit that I finish more songs. Doesn't we all want that? So this was just a short introduction to this workflow. I'm literally just scratching the surface of what you can do with this combination. And many of you maybe already have an iPad lying around at home. It doesn't need to be a powerful one. And the crazy part about this is that Loopy Pro is free. So if you have a Groovebox, a synthesizer with a sequencer, and an iPad, I definitely think you should try this workflow out. It's so good. So that's all I had to show you. I hope that I inspired someone. Back to you, Bo.
Now, those were all the life-changing synth tips I have for you today, but it doesn't stop there because there will be some more truly life-changing synth tips coming out later this spring. I have 2 more videos planned with special guests, with some advice from myself. And yeah, I hope you stay tuned for that. And if you want to be a part of a life-changing synth tips episode, check the comment section because I will have a pinned comment down there with some instructions if you want to be a part of these episodes. You don't have to be a synth YouTuber, you could be a producer, you could be just a regular guy like myself playing with synths. I think that there's a lot of you out there who have valuable advice to share. So if you want to be a part of the show, check the pinned comment. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Talk to you all later.